The year was 1939. World War II had only just begun, and the world was already drowning in fire, fear, and silence. In the dead of night, amidst the frozen battlefields of German-occupied territory, 3 Russian soldiers, Lieutenant Sergei, the hardened leader, Private Mikhail, the youngest and most terrified, and Corporal Leonid, wounded and barely hanging on, hid inside a crumbling underground bunker. The earth trembled above them with the distant roar of artillery. The bunker was dark, damp, and nearly out of supplies. Hunger gnawed at them. Hope had all but vanished. Suddenly, without warning, the heavy silence was broken. Footsteps echoed above. The soldiers gripped their rifles, their breath held tight. But instead of an enemy, a 4th Russian soldier burst into the bunker. His uniform was in tatters, face pale but composed, and his eyes full of urgency. Without explanation, he ordered them to follow. They hesitated for only a second. Something about him felt certain, resolute. They grabbed their gear and fled into the forest behind him. The cold night was thick with fog. German voices shouted in the distance. Searchlights danced between the trees. The unknown soldier led them expertly through the woods, slipping between trenches, crawling beneath fallen fences, and darting through ruined buildings. At one point, the sound of dogs barking grew louder. Panic set in. They veered off the trail and hid under a broken bridge, holding their breath as enemy boots marched just above them. Mikhail could feel his heart trying to leap out of his chest. When silence returned, he turned to thank their guide. But then came the twist. The soldier who had led them vanished. He was just there, and now he was gone. They searched in the darkness, calling out softly, looking for footprints, but there was no trace. Confused and shaken, they pressed forward in the direction he had pointed. Eventually, just before dawn, they reached a Russian military outpost. Exhausted, freezing, and half delirious, they stumbled into the arms of fellow comrades. The camp burst into action. Medics rushed Leonid to a tent, guards checked their IDs, and warm tea was pressed into their hands. As Sergei spoke to the medical officer, he mentioned the man who had saved them. He described him clearly: thin face, cold eyes, and a distinct scar across his neck. The nurse froze at those words. Without saying anything, she led them silently to the side of the tent. There, beneath a tarp, lay a body just brought in from the forest. When she pulled the cover away, time seemed to stop. It was the same man, the same soldier who had just saved them, now cold, pale, and unmistakably dead. Mikhail stumbled backward. Leonid's lips trembled. Sergei's face went blank, his eyes locked on the lifeless face. The nurse explained in a hushed voice, "The man was Private Anatoly Morozov, a scout. He had been shot during a recon mission and had bled out in the snow over 6 hours ago. His body had been recovered at midnight, long before the others had begun their escape. But the timing didn't make sense. The 3 of them had followed him through the forest just 1 hour ago. Their minds raced. Was it a ghost? A hallucination? A miracle?" The doctor stepped in and confirmed the time of death. It was impossible. Yet the impossible had just happened. As they sat in stunned silence, a cold breeze passed through the tent flaps, making the lanterns flicker. Just for a moment, Mikhail thought he saw a shadow move outside, but no one was there. Leonid whispered to himself, almost in prayer. Maybe Anatoly hadn't died a soldier. Not yet. Maybe his soul had held on just long enough to complete one final duty, to guide his comrades home. As the sun finally rose over the camp, the horror of the night gave way to a quiet, sacred peace. Soldiers marched in silence. The war continued. But on a wooden wall at the camp's edge, a photo of Private Anatoly Morozov was pinned beneath a few trembling candles. Someone had scrawled a message beside it in charcoal. He returned. He guided. And whether it was a ghost, a spirit, or a soldier's last breath stretched by pure willpower, those who survived would never forget the night they were led to safety by a man who had already died.